I was a national park ranger. Here are some of the things I encountered. Hi there, I'm Samantha, Sam, and I was park ranger for 6 years. I won't specify where as I don't want to get in trouble. One of the people I worked with told me to read the other park ranger stories on here, so I thought I'd give it a shot, and shit is it good to see someone being honest. It inspired me to share some of my own stories. People need to know what happens in the woods. I quit my job a couple years ago. I couldn't deal with having to bottle up all the things I've seen. Nobody wants to talk about them, but I feel I'm drowning in the memories of it all. So I'm going to share them. I don't know if I'll be able to share it all, it might be too hard, but I'll give it a go. I hope this raises some awareness of the true danger of the woods and make people consider their safety. I don't want people to think I'm copying someone or making these things up. I'm just sharing my stories and experiences. Let's get into it. This was my first ever weird experience as a junior ranger. To this day I still don't know what I saw, but I know it wasn't friendly. I had just received a call about a screams coming from deeper in the forest off one of the more popular trails. This really wasn't unusual. If you've heard a mountain lion, you know it sounds like a woman screaming. So just as I was about to set off, my chief at the time asked to come along. I found this a little odd as the job seemed a bit too insignificant for his rank, but I brushed it off as I was new and thought maybe he wanted to check my progress. We set off making small talk and I was obviously trying to suck up a little. We were joking around. He made a quick remark and said something about making sure that I take even these small jobs seriously because you'll never know what you'll find, and that was some of the most valuable advice I've gotten from someone on this job because I learned my lesson from not listening to it. But that's different story. We get to the area where the call was and begin north of the trail where the noise had been heard. We hear the screams and it sounds like a mountain lion, but something sounds really off about it, but we keep walking towards it. We're about 10 minutes into walking towards the sound when all of a sudden it's like all the sound had been sucked from the woods. It was dead silent. I couldn't even hear my breathing. I thought maybe I'd gone deaf, but I look at my chief and he had the same nervous expression on his face as I did, but by the way he was reacting it felt as if he had dealt with something similar before, which I now know to be true. Just as quick as the silence came, I started to hear this low buzzing, but it wasn't just buzzing. I could feel the vibration of it in the whole body, so much so that my ears and jaws started to hurt. I can only describe it as if when you're getting your teeth drilled in at the dentist, but it felt even worse. Even my vision started to vibrate, and as that happened I swear this black figure about 7 feet tall stepped out from a few trees in front of me and started with that same scream as it bent down and began to crawl towards us. As anyone would, I freaked the fuck out and stepped back to start running. My chief grabs my arm very hard just as I start to sprint, almost knocking me over. He puts his other arm around me and holds my arms very tight as he begins to walk me out of the forest. Just as I'm about to put up a fight and tell him to fucking run, he says in a very calm voice, "Don't run, don't talk, don't look back, just keep walking." And I did exactly what he said. He knew something I didn't, and as much as I wanted to run, I didn't want to test the theory of death. That 10-minute walk was excruciating because I knew it was crawling behind us by the buzzing in the back of my head and the sound of its light wailing. I wanted to run so bad. Eventually I think it ran off because all the noise in the forest came back and the buzzing stopped. We get back on the trail and I'm shaking. I was in so much shock I couldn't even cry. He lets go of me and begins walking back to main base without acknowledging what happened. I start going crazy and screaming at him, asking what the hell that was, and he says, and yes, I remember word for word what he said, "There are things in these woods that have been here longer than us that we can't explain or get rid of. If you don't think you can handle that, you should pack your bags now." He kept walking and I walked a bit behind, trying to shake that horrible feeling and tried to find a reasonable answer for what just happened. I clearly stayed in the job. When it was good, it was really good. I met some amazing people and I love nature, but in the end the bad experiences outweighed the good and I had to leave. I wish I had left when he told me to pack my bags, in all honesty. I know this experience doesn't sound all that scary, but trust me, there are worse ones. Living through it was definitely much scarier than reading it in words. Clearly this first encounter wasn't enough to scare me off, but the ones to come led to my departure of this job. Some experiences are scarier, but some are more explainable.